You don't understand game dev. Star Citizen is doing something no other game has done in history. So what if they're greedy? Greed is good sometimes. Does this argument sound familiar to you? Hello, everybody. I'm So Say We All. Welcome to my channel. I know it's been a while, and we are talking about, yes, the 10,000 pound weight in the room, Star Citizen. So I'm late to the conversation, and I did that for a reason, because I wanted to just absorb and listen to all of the weird justifications that you're going to hear for a company selling gameplay. Now, yes, this is not something new. How many companies, mostly AAA companies, have done this, literally sold gameplay to players to milk them out of money? Well, when your largest marketing push is that you are an independent company and you are not going to engage in the predatory and disgusting practices of AAA companies, and then you go and arguably do the same thing, does that make you any better or different? Now, the warning signs have been there with Star Citizen for years, but there's something very unique that has happened with Star Citizen as a result of it being a literal decade plus in development. Two of the most important things, one that's most damaging to the game and one that's most damaging to the community. And I'm going to say this right now. I don't usually say this about gaming communities, but the gaming community around Star Citizen is bad. Actually bad. I'm not going to target a specific content creator because that's not fair. There are some decent people who have been swept up in this, who have hedged their careers on this, and are going to be severely damaged if they abandon it at this point. But that's not to say they are not contributing to a big problem with this company and this game. So the twofold problems start, one, with CIG. CIG has extended the dev cycle for 2 games, neither of which have been delivered, to almost 12 years. The damaging part of this is they are now losing legacy devs that understood the engine, understood the gameplay systems, and understood the problems with both. So what you're getting is a new crop of devs that don't understand systems. They literally admitted that one of the biggest parts of the game, the transit and kiosk systems, which are 90% of the interactivity in this game so far, outside of missions, combat, everything else, the legacy devs for that don't work for the company anymore. They don't. They are gone. And the people that have come in have looked at it and said, well, here's another system we need to refactor. On top of combat, loot, crafting, base building, server meshing. Every couple of years we hear about a new system that needs to be refactored and redesigned. Why? Because the dev cycle has been so interminably long. This has nothing to do about scope. The scope is a problem as well. But this prolonged dev cycle, where you are alienating people who were committed to the project in the beginning, who have seen this feature creep, have seen the problems that come down directly from up top, because as much as people want to view Chris Roberts as some sort of gaming messiah, he is a problematic person in game dev. He was the reason why Freelancer 2 was basically taken out of his hands and forced to release, because he's a problem. He doesn't understand game dev. And you see a lot of people in the community claiming that he does. He doesn't. He is not a game dev. He is a guru. He is literally a literal gaming guru. He comes up with pie in the sky ideas and then just dumps it on a dev team and goes, get this done. And you can see it in the faces of the devs of Star Citizen when the spotlight is put on them. There is a level of frustration, there is a level of anxiety, and actually a level of disappointment in their faces when you hear them talk. And there's a denial in the community that this is happening. And the problem with this now is you have an engine, and the argument is this is a custom engine. It's doing things that no engine has ever done before. No. It's doing things on a scale that nobody's done before, and there's a reason why they don't do it on this scale. Because of the problematic dev that comes along with it. It's also now an aging engine that doesn't work well with modern tech, that doesn't work well with upscalers. Again, the community is in denial about this because all they hear is CryEngine is the best engine ever made. No, it's not. I'm sorry. And whether you like to hear this or not, CryEngine was never made to be used for a MMO. Arguably, the things that CryEngine does well, the first-person combat, and the ship combat, which is technically first-person combat in space, yeah, those things work really well. There is an immersive element to Star Citizen. You cannot deny that. You're never going to get me to say that there are not parts of Star Citizen that are extremely compelling and work really well. But as a package, this game is nowhere near ready to go. And what we're starting to see now in the existence of their financials, in the existence of their shedding of dev teams, their panic by absorbing companies thinking that somehow this is going to give them the dev pool to finish a game, it's not happening. And the existence of Blades is an example of them now at a point where they have to nickel and dime their community to sustain unfathomable growth that never should have happened. Never should have happened. And you want to know why? Can you tell me a single independent dev studio that has absorbed two companies while stretch goaling 2 games and delivering nothing and has gotten zero flack from their supporters? Most companies would be shamed out of existence for doing something like this. And if anything, it looks like money laundering. Why, if you're trying to make a single player game, because let's be honest, they're making a single player game first. Star Citizen is a back burner project that, frankly, they don't have to finish. They're promised a single player game, which they claim is coming out next year. But this is the problem. The other problem, and this is a core fundamental problem of how Star Citizen was developed. They came up with a concept. They did a prototype. Then that concept exploded in a million different directions with no foundation. The biggest foundation of this game that they needed to have sorted and ready to go before they did any mission structure, any crafting, any space combat had to have been server meshing. I don't know if you've been in playtests. I don't know if any of you are in Evocati. Server meshing doesn't work yet. 12 years. 12 years and 2 iterations later, server meshing does not work correctly. And this is the big thing that they do in all of their marketing. They show this combined arms combat and this, player-driven economy based on combat and rating, but that's not there, and it doesn't work. And anything that you see foisted by content creators is all staged. All of it. None of it is iterative. It's not something that is driven by the game itself. Even the staged events, and they are staged events because they are time-gated, they're only run by the company when they want them, mostly to drive ship sales. Nothing in this game works correctly. And the argument that, oh, you don't understand game dev, there are plenty of people out there that have worked in game development. They understand how games are made. And all of them are raising the red flag as to what is going on with CIG. So then we're going to switch over to the other side, and arguably the more damaging side, and that is the community of Star Citizen. Not only are these people trying to vehemently justify their spending on what is technically a tech demo. You can argue there's gameplay in here. You can argue there's fun in here. But this community doesn't know what it wants. Half the community thinks they're getting GTA in space. Another half of the community is considering an immersive space sim. And then another group of the community thinks they're getting COD in space. So what do you want? This is, again, a damaging part of marketing in this game because it keeps promising things it's never going to deliver to you. And the community itself is in denial. The community is in denial every time they miss a stretch goal, every time they miss a promise, every time they miss a release window, every time they promise they're not going to refactor a ship again because it doesn't have implemented gameplay elements. Over and over and over. And on top of it, they sell this shit to the community, not just with words, but asking for a monetary commitment from the community. And on and on and on, this community just keeps feeding them money to the tune of $820 million. Money that any other studio would have made 2 to 3 games with, if not more. More compelling, more immersive, and actually released. And the argument you hear over and over again is you just don't understand the scope and the amazing things that this game is going to do. They're not doing it. They're not doing it. They're not doing anything revolutionary. They're not. And this community does not want to listen. And there's a reason for that. Because in the span of 12 windows, you've seen a large amount of the people that were initial backers and vehement supporters of this game get shed. I've literally watched content creators' careers die because of this game. What happens? Well, now you get new backers. And these new backers have no idea about the history of the game. They just see a small window of when they became supporters. And then they vehemently go through the same cycle of defend, deny, then realization. And now we're at that point again. We're at that 4 to 5 year window where another chunk of backers are standing there going, wait a minute. All of this stuff that was promised, there's nothing here. There is literally nothing here. And every time they commit to something, it either doesn't happen or gets chronically delayed with a million excuses. Now you're going to say, hey, you're being really judgmental about this game. You have no idea what it takes to run a company. Hey, I'll be fair about this. No, I don't. But what I do know, mostly, is that from the outside, this looks really bad. And there's a level of desperation coming out of this company because they're at a point where they cannot financially support what they're doing anymore. Their exponential growth hurt them. And what's going to be the solution? Well, I had an argument a long time ago with a content creator, which I'm not going to name. He'll probably remember me at some point, where I said, hey, why can't Star Citizen do a No Man's Sky route, but with an early access caveat? They have a foundation, arguably a decent foundation. It doesn't work correctly all the time. It has a lot of problems. Why can't they work just on that? And no, it's not going to be feature complete. It's not going to have everything that they promise. It's not going to have base building and combined arms and 25,000 solar systems that you can explore and navigate. No. The scope needs to be drawn back. It's gone way too far, to the point where they are never going to deliver anything that they promised, and arguably anything that they fleeced their community out of money to develop. Because most of these things that they claim they're working on were stretch goals that they made the community pay for with the promise that they would be done with the money that was pledged. So what are they going to do? Well, there's 2 very nasty realizations that I think this community needs to understand are going to happen. 1, the release of Squadron 42. Everything that we have seen so far has just been cinematics. The small amount of gameplay that we've seen, honestly, isn't that compelling. For a single-player space game, it's just not. It's not. And, as we saw with the last sitcom, it doesn't run right. There's noticeable problems with shader compilations, ghosting, upscaler problems, crashing, rendering problems. And this is in a curated section of the game where they made developers work overtime to complete to show to the public. So what state is Squadron 42 actually in? Telling the community that it's feature complete doesn't mean crap if everything else about the game might be broken, might not be ready for release, may never be ready for release, We do not know what the state of Squadron 42 is. So something might happen. One really damaging, one arguably not as damaging, but still a warning sign. One, a delay, and a prolonged delay, pushing it outside of the window of 2026 completely. That's going to be bad, because if they do what I think they're going to do, run a pre-order window with special bonuses, maybe partnering with a publisher, because again, nothing stops them from doing that. Even though they've claimed they will never do that, nothing's going to stop them from going to Microsoft and saying, hey, you want to partner with us in releasing this groundbreaking single-player game called Squadron 42? How about some money? Nothing's going to stop them from doing that. But here's the really scary thing. What if Squadron 42 releases in a broken, buggy state and they don't do a lot to fix it right away? How much more damaging to the reputation of this company is that going to be? Because this is going to appeal to a group of people who have no interest whatsoever in the multiplayer MMO portion that is Star Citizen. If anything, there's a bigger market for single-player space games. So this comes out. It's broken. It's buggy. They take a long time to fix it, if ever. Well, this now drains more resources out of CIG with the damaging effects of refunds, disinterest in purchasing, people waiting to buy the game till it's sale until it's fixed, and the financial burden of having to task developers on fixing everything that's broken post-release. We've seen this destroy other smaller companies. So now you're dealing with a broken reputation. Well, what does this mean for Star Citizen? Well, now you've taken resources away that you claimed once Squadron 42 was done and released would be dumped back into Star Citizen, financial and physical. Well, now you can't commit any of that because to fix your reputation with a broad gaming community, you have to fix Squadron 42. So now all of your timelines, all of your fucking development time, and all of the people you dedicated to going back to Star Citizen to finish it for a god knows what release window, you can't commit them anymore. So now Star Citizen languishes again to fix the mistakes they made of rushing out a single-player game. Do you not see the problem here? And what is this going to have in terms of an impact on the company itself? Well, you're going to see layoffs. They've done layoffs before. Arguably, that was because Squadron 42 was feature complete. Well, I'll tell you right now, there's information coming out that that's not true. And they're going to have to shrink more. Because if the damaging effects of the single player have what I think it's going to have, the faith in the company in itself is going to diminish. Backers of Star Citizen are going to see, hey, we're not getting anything now. So they're going to disappear. They're going to stop buying ships, arguably the sole funding mechanism of the company itself. Think about how bad that is. They have made nothing else in 12 years. Nothing. So if they drop a failure, the financial stability of the company is going to suffer. They've bought at least 2 studios. What's going to happen to them? Are those going to be the first people that see layoffs? Are they going to cannibalize those companies for developers and then just shutter them? Something that EA had no problem doing. Something that Ubisoft has done in the past to their own studios. And are you going to, as a backer of this game, be, oh, that's okay, because, it just means they're going to slim down and they're going to release the game in a couple years. Is that going to be your argument when 1,500 people, 2,000 people lose their jobs? What happens when, at some point, they just say, hey, 1.0 is all you got. Bare bones, broken, not complete, not ready to ship. That's 1.0. With the promise that we're going to fix it if you buy more stuff. Because that's inevitably what's going to happen to Star Citizen. I am warning you guys right now. Anybody who has been through the early access cycle of development for a lot of games understands that when a company over promises, over expects what they're capable of doing with the resources that they have, and then they come to a point where they go, oh fuck, we're never going to do this. That's what they do. They release a broken, buggy tech demo with the promise of fixing it if you buy and give them more money for things. And if you think the monetization isn't going to get worse, yeah, they backtracked and said, oh, well, blades are going to be earnable in game. But they're still selling blades right now, and there's a reason why. Because the community of this game doesn't know when to say no. They don't know when to stop. They don't know when to hold their wallets as a pressure device for this company to do something. They are chronically buying shit to the tune of $2 million a month. Let that sink into you for a second. They have enough people brainwashed that this is ever going to be a released product that they're willing to spend that much money on a promise that is never, ever delivered properly. There is an endemic problem with the fan base of this game. And they're in denial. And they're not just in denial, they will vehemently defend and deny and defame people who point out just simple things that for any other gaming company on this planet would be a warning sign to run away. Don't support them. It would be like the people who bought Ark originally, looking at what's going on now at Ark Survival Ascended, the shenanigans going on with Snail Games and going, oh, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to buy more DLC and I'm going to buy skins and I'm just going to keep buying stuff because, I like them. And how brain dead do you have to be? And this is not, again, this is not a excursion of the actual devs at the studio. If anything, they are the people I feel most bad for. Because most of them got on board with the idea that they were making a really awesome single-player space game that would revolutionize space games and be a revitalization for space games. They weren't coming in expecting this degree of a shit show, run by a man who knows nothing about game development, who is arguably such a perfectionist that he can't just let something be made. It's never enough. And this isn't about making a revolutionary game. It's about destroying the morale and the will of an entire dev team that just wants to make something good and fun. You can see it when they actually have the ability to do that. It shows. But what you see now, and especially leading into SitCon and post-SitCon, is a broken dev team that is frustrated and tired of doing this. And they may just go. They may just start leaving, because one of the things that have come out notably in the financials and have come out in anonymous interviews with people that used to work for the company is that they pay under scale. Let that sink in for a second. Why would I stay at a company that pays me less and isn't fulfilling and doesn't make me use my talents when I could arguably go to another company, face the same amount of uncertainty in terms of my job stability, but get paid better, have more on my resume that I can take and go to other companies? Even other independent studios are paying more than Star Citizen's at CIG is. That's that's a warning sign. It's demoralizing when you have to go to work every day knowing that you're being paid less than your peers and your work really doesn't matter. Because all that matters for this game is ship sales, JPEGs, arguably NFTs. How demoralizing must that be for the devs at CIG? And yes, some of them will say, oh, I don't care about that because I'm doing meaningful things at the company. But that's not everybody at the company. And arguably, one of the other things that we've heard from a lot of people that work there is the management culture in this company is bad. It's broken. There's no accountability. And it shows. It shows because they've cycled game directors twice. And arguably, things have gotten worse, not better. And this is an indictment of either of the game directors. They're on board on something that's just a fucking sinking ship. How much bailing of water can you do before you just go, I can't anymore? This doesn't work. It's broken. It is fundamentally flawed, and I don't know what to do with it anymore. That's what they're facing with Star Citizen. If you don't think that's true, I'm sorry. You don't know anything about game dev. You don't know anything about running a company. You are in denial. Thanks for watching my channel. Hope this doesn't infuriate everybody and makes you actually think about what I'm talking about. Have a good one, guys.